up, good agents? We've got Bill Crespo with us from Espresso Agent. We're going to be talking about something that we haven't seen talked about much, and that's expireds and for sale by owners in the current market that we're in. Bill, I love your background. Looks like you're in Hawaii, right?
Yep, that's where I feel. That's where my heart is right now. That's where I feel like I should be, right?
I love it. I'm in the toilet paper aisle at Costco, so hopefully they don't kick me out. But here we are.
Oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. What a dichotomy. So where do we go with this here? You know, I
think first let's get started with the fact that people are still. You mentioned one thing, and that's this: more people are interested in learning about what's happening in real estate. They actually want to transact, and you have less real estate agents actually going up and taking that as an opportunity, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the pent-up demand from the consumer is greater than the pent-up demand from the agents that want to do something. Because I think right now there's three types of agents out there in the marketplace. You have someone who is fear-focused. I'm a little nervous. I don't know what to do. And then you have someone who is what we call unfocused. You don't know what to do first. And then you have, I think, the strategy-focused people, the people that are actually making the calls, and actually moving the dime. I mean, moving that client to the next step. It's different now. And I think that the consumer is looking for someone who's going to have the answers. And you know, I'm listening to calls. So I'm hearing the conversations. They're not irate. They're not, you know, they would like to get answers. They're fearing several things, but I think we need to bring up the news. We got to let them know where we think the market is going and become that expert or authority. So it's there. I mean, no doubt about it, the business is there. And I wrote down the fear-focused person is afraid of making the call. They don't want to call the FSBO or expired. They're just concerned about how people are going to treat them. So they're fearful, they're frozen. Then you have the unfocused, they're just inconsistent. They're not consistently making the calls. So they're up and down, their market is up and down, their business is up and down. Then you have the strategy focus, and they know they have to put more time into making the calls. I mean, no doubt about it. It's going to take more dials, more contacts, and more conversations. And people think they can do that in a couple hours. And unfortunately, this market is going to take a lot more time.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. The approach has to change. So let's get right into it, man. What have you seen is different in the approach that people are taking when they're calling for sale by owners or they're calling expireds? What's been the biggest change in that approach?
I think that, well, the consumer, I believe, listening to the calls, is you got to know how to take the call, because if you're pushing too hard in the beginning, they're gonna just hang up on you. So you're really gauging where they're going in the conversation. That takes a little bit more skill. And I was actually talking about it this morning with someone, how the initial contact, I mean, right now, and it's always been this way making calls, is your voice is your face. Right? So if you have an ugly voice, guess what happens? You don't have a pretty face. So you've got to work on tonality on the call. That's still the same way, whether you're now more than ever. And then empathy has to come into play. We've got to be more empathetic. They're nervous, and we can't go, oh, okay, I appreciate that, and then go into your next thing. I mean, you have to elaborate, let these people talk. So many times they're cutting people off when they're just voicing how they feel. And I think that I call it doctor filling the person. So when someone gives up some of that emotion, you've got to be right there with them and be empathetic and totally understand where they're at. And even maybe go deeper, because a lot of times salespeople don't want to go deep enough because they just want to get to the close. We may have to go a little bit deeper.
I think, Bill, also, they're a little scared as to how to go deeper, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what to say. They don't know how to proceed. And I think before we make these calls, just realize, like what Bill is saying, it's a whole different world that we're in. And it should be approached really, number one, have more social awareness so that you understand your tonality has to change, right? And yes, there have been people that are successful right now calling for sale by owners and calling expireds. Now, The reason that some states like New York say, hey, no more cold calling, is because you have people that just are emotionally, they're just not there. Their intelligence emotionally is just like not there. And you have them calling and saying, hey, the same script over and over and over and over, right? And nobody wants to hear that right now. It's not, what I'm telling people is what Bill says, and you've got to use a lot more heart and less sell, right? So with that, Bill, I have a couple of examples. If you want me to go first or you want to go first, you tell me.
Let me just tell you a quick story about someone who made an expired call. So this guy makes an expired call, and the person says, yeah, I was upset with my, my other agent, and right now I'm not sure what I need to do. The guy says, well, listen, if I can show you, that we can actually make you feel comfortable through the process, protect your home from any of the germs that are out there, I'd like to just do a quick, a Zoom meeting with you and go over what I can do. And if it makes sense, we can go from there. So he calls back the guy to confirm the appointment. He said it like, say, 4 o'clock Thursday. And the guy goes, hey, listen, I'm calling back to confirm the appointment, the Zoom appointment at 4 o'clock so you can be online. The guy goes, online? He goes, yeah, I don't know anything about online. I thought you were coming over to make a quick meeting, a Zoom, like Zoom in and Zoom out meeting. He had no idea. But watch this. The guy says, come on over. The agent went over there and got the listing.
Wow.
So we're assuming that they all want to do it a certain way. Now, yes, like you said, Tristan, there's certain states you can't. But I think we are assuming the wrong assumption here on some of these people. They want to hear the right stuff. If you tell them the right stuff, they're ready to go. So I just want to leave it at that. That was a funny story. The guy goes, yeah, a Zoom? I thought Zoom meant fast. So anyway, we'll take it from there.
Well, I think that's the key, man. The key is just taking out that limiting belief that people don't need you right now. And I think the most obvious thing to me is starting with for sale by owners. They have their home on the market because they want to sell. I mean, how obvious is that, right? That to me just, it boggles my mind when people think, well, I'm going to be disturbing them. I'm like, no, you're not. They have their home on the market and they want to sell. So why not approach it with value? So here's one thing that we've been doing, Bill, and it's been working for us. So but one thing we're doing is obviously we're using Espresso Agent, right? So this is a whole webinar sponsored by Espresso Agent. So take a look at them. That's where we get all of our information for sale by owners and expireds. That's number one. I'll put up the link there. There's a special for them. But when we're getting the list of for sale by owners, what we're doing is we're identifying the newest ones because we don't want to pick the old ones that have been on Zillow or old ones somewhere else because we don't know if this was pre-COVID-19, right? And we want to be sensitive. Again, we're using some social awareness here. So we go to the new ones that we get and we call them up and we say, hey, Bill, this is Tristan with Keller Williams Realty out here in the Conejo Valley, Ventura County. Looks like your home is for sale. Is it for sale by owner? I just want to make sure that it actually still is for sale because some of the ones we find here are no longer for sale. And they're like, yeah, that's it's still for sale. I'm like, awesome. But look, I'm not looking to call you to take on the listing like every agent that has been calling you, if any agents are calling you. I actually want to help you out and show you how business has changed because it's not business as usual for us. We've approached this with a lot more virtual showings and really shifted over to the virtual world. Is it okay if I send you a link, an email that has links to the way that we're doing it? This way you can use the right cameras, you can use the right websites, and you can see what's being done to sell homes right now. This way you get some great ideas. We'll also connect you to escrow and title so that you know you're connected to the ones that are actually working right now. And so when we approach it that way, people's minds shift. They're like, oh yeah, and you don't want to take on the listing? Oh, Bill, of course. Like if you decide to give it to us, yeah, definitely. But I'm calling because it's my duty to help out everyone that's really trying to sell their homes and to shift it because I want to protect our environment. I don't want people to get sick when they don't need to. And so if I can show you a way to sell your home that'll help you actually sell it because the world that we're in shifted, it'll help me out too. So here's how it is. And then I say, Bill, is this your current email address? Because in Espresso Agent, we also get their email addresses. So I said, is this your current email address? Bill, it's Bill at, and then you're like, no, it's not that one. Use this one. I said, awesome. I'll use that one. And then I send them out. And in the email, Bill, I outline, hey, look, here's my latest virtual tour. Here's what it looks like. We used Matterport, right? Or you can use whoever. And these are the things we're doing online. And then I also send them a video that I did on YouTube. Let me grab that one so people, because I know people are going to ask me, well, what did you send? I'll post it up on the chat here. I send them a video I did on YouTube that explains how we're running open houses on Facebook through events and Facebook through something called Premiere. And it breaks it down for them. It's a 22-minute video. Chances are they're not going to take a look at the whole video, but they get the gist of this, that I'm doing things that are working. And guys, I just put up the link in the chat box, so you can grab it there. Do me a favor, take a look at it, subscribe. But it goes deep into how we're doing open houses, right? And this is important. When I'm approaching for sale by owners, I'm giving them this value for free. And I'm saying, hey, this is what's working. That's part of what I send them in the email, these links. And the more information that they get, they're going to be like, wow, you know what? Bill, you're going to say, Bill, you're going to say, Tristan, it looks like you actually know what you're doing, right? So I'm going to be at the top of their mind. This way I'm not selling. The selling part is not in front. It's the value that I'm giving. Right. And that's how we're approaching for sale by owners in a nutshell, Bill. Anything you have to add to that?
Yeah, just a couple things. I think that one thing that you're doing, I think that works, is the law of reciprocity, right? I give you, you give me. So that's what you're doing there. The other thing too is, the only other thing I would add to that is two things. One is that you call what you do something. It's not just a listing presentation. You actually called it a something, that you have this thing that you do that makes them be curious, of what you have. Because if every agent sounds the same, it's very confusing to the consumer. So you've got to sound different. And so we've heard people call it the seller advantage program. I have clients talking about the white glove program, or the healthy home, or whatever they call it. I'd like to share with you that information. The other thing too is to understand what their what was the reason for selling. And you always sell to the pain. You always sell to the motivation. Sometimes we'll do a presentation without understanding what their reasons for. Remember the old script that said, hey, are you prepared to list your home with me right now, wherever that script was? And, we always said, that never really happens. It doesn't happen if you never ask, right? And it ends up happening at times. And then the last thing is that people take things in 3s and 5s. From the studies that have been done, if you always see people talk about 3 things or 5 things. If you put too much, you overwhelm the person on Zoom too. So you want to be able to make bullet points of what you do for someone, and knowing that they'll remember 3s and 5s. Beyond 5, they're in la la land. They'll forget what you're giving them.
That's a really good point that you bring up. Everybody, please listen to what Bill said there. He wants us to create a name for whatever it is that we're going to be marketing. So Bill, I hadn't even done that yet, but now I'm thinking of names. And yeah, I'm only giving them 3 links really quick, right? Mm-hmm. Virtual tour. So it shows them the 3D.
Call it, like what can we call it?
Kind of like a COVID-19, selling under COVID-19, my plan, my virtual plan.
A virtual COVID-19 program, or whatever it may be. Yeah. So it has it's IP. It has its own intellectual property.
That's a really good point.
It's been really powerful. I've got people calling it the seller advantage program, the buyer advantage program, the white glove program, the healthy home program, so that they, call it something to put more value, because then someone goes, oh, I got to listen to Tristan and see what he has there, versus just, hey, I want to list your home and I want to tell you what I do.
Yeah, and I think, Bill, the more I'm thinking about this, the more it goes in line with what you've been telling everybody. Is like, look, don't hide the elephant in the room, put it in the front. And so that goes along with maybe what I'm going to name mine. It would be the COVID-19 home selling plan. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Just make it exactly what it is. Because if then you say, well, have you talked to any agents that have a plan for this time, right? I've got a specific one. It's a COVID-19 home selling plan.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And this is what I do. I'll email it over to you. So good point on that one. And the thing that this all revolves around is also good data, right? So data is really important, and that's where Espresso Agent comes in. Guys, I put up a link there so you can take a look at the data, because a lot of people are asking, well, where do I get the phone numbers to call, right? That's where we get them, which is espressoagent.com. Let's shift over into expireds. How are you seeing successful agents call expireds right now?
Well, just like with that little story I said to you, that there are people that have life-changing events going on, right? We know that there's basically 6 or 7 life-changing events. You've got divorce, pregnancy, job transfer, job, out of work, whatever. There's going to be life-changing events going on in any marketplace. So calling that right person up, you'll find that they still got to move. It's just amazing to me how many people are still wanting to move and get to their next place. Now, some of them are saying, I want to wait till later. Now, I do believe the expired should be called whatever. Listen, you give me a phone number. That's all I need. Just a phone number that someone picks up. Even if it's to me, in my opinion, even if it's someone from last year. Here's the other side of it. I just want to, don't forget this, and we can talk about this later. The for rent by owners is another key market to call right now, because you have investors that want to unload on some of their product that they can't rent. So they're going to want to unload some of this stuff. So we want to go back to that. But for sale about the expireds, you're going to see prices change. It may be a level market where it's not a buyer or seller. It's kind of like flat. And then you're going to see prices change. You couldn't ask for a better opportunity for expireds right now. I mean, I think it's going to be gold. And but Tristan, what I see when people, they're so concerned more about how people perceive them than to provide them the right information that's necessary to get them to where they need to be with their home. They're so concerned about, I wonder what they think of me. Well, hey, these doctors that are in the front line, are they really concerned about what that patient who is sick going to think of them? No, they got to do their job. I think we have to raise their standards up and understand that we have a job to do. And we're going to go out there and deliver the information, good, bad, or indifferent. And some of it is that these markets are going to lose 10%. So by selling now, they could save 5, 6, 8, 10% if they do the right thing right now. And you need to tell that message and broadcast that out to the world, because that's our job. I think we're a little hesitant by doing that because we're afraid of what they'll think of us. Some of them need to move, and some of them need to sell right now, or else they're going to lose their butts 3 months from now. They've lost 10% equity out of their home in some markets.
Yeah, that's true. And the approach is what matters. So what Bill's telling you is, when you're reaching out to people that have their home that just expired on the MLS, the reason that a lot of people are saying, well, I'm not going to be the one that calls and sounds like a salesperson. Well, then don't sound like a salesperson, number one, right? I don't want to get a call either, Bill, saying, hey, look, this is Tristan with Keller Williams. I'm just calling to see when you're going to list your home, or when you're going to choose the right agent to list your home. I'm like, that's not the time that we use this script, right?
Yeah. Are you familiar with the techniques I use?
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Yeah. No. Hold on. Yes, I am. No, so you don't want to approach it that way right now. Right. It's all putting a lot more heart into this. So the approach would be a lot different. It'd be something along the lines as, I'm calling Bill, like, hey, Bill, this is Tristan with Keller Williams Realty. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
The whole process. So thanks, Bill. Look, Bill, I don't know if you're getting a lot of calls about your home that just came off the market, but I'm calling to see if you really need to sell your home in this current market, or are you going to wait until after this whole COVID-19 thing is done? Have you given some thought into that?
You know what? I'm just not sure what we're going to do. This has really thrown us off for a loop here. So we're kind of contemplating what we're going to do.
Yeah, man, we're finding the same thing with some of our sellers. In fact, some of our sellers did take their homes off the market right now because of that same concern. They don't know. But the ones that did leave it on, we found something that was really interesting in our area. If it's priced right, we're getting multiple offers. And that was a total surprise to me, Bill. So look, if you are interested and you think your home has the right price, we can definitely sell it. We have a special program that we're running, which is specifically for COVID-19 and I could send you some links so I could show you what we're doing differently. What's the best email, Bill? Is it still bill@homes.com?
Yeah. And can I add something to what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay, so you gave that IP, that title. I would say add 3, and we're going to be talking about 3 specific things that are critical to the sale of your home. And then that way they want to hear that because you went more specific. I think real estate people talk in too much generalities, and people know it's a sales thing.
Beautiful.
You know, so once you get more specific in your language, you start to have people listen, and they know what you're telling them is important to the sale of their home. Hey, we're going to cover this, this, and this on the call. The other thing I want to add on that is that you've got to show value to the appointment. So there's a thing called the post sale, right? The POST sale, which is, Bob, you see anything that may stop us from getting on Zoom Thursday at 4 o'clock? Just to confirm that again. So you're going back again, because the people will still not show up, just like they do when you go to their house. So what you want to do is show value. And they go, well, no, I don't see anything that will stop us from being that. Okay. And don't forget that you have to download Zoom. I'm going to give you a link. You have to have that prepared prior to, you get them all prepped up, and remind them again. We're going to go over those 3 points. And if it's not something that's of value to you right now, at least you know what your next steps are in working with us and how we can work together. And so you give them a way out. That's that fight or flight syndrome. As soon as they feel like they're cornered, they're going to run away from you. They're not going to show up. But once they know that they have a way out, they will listen. It's that we shut them down on the phone. We're going for the throat at times. I still hear people closing very hard. And then you got the drivers that go, well, that sounds really weak, Bill. You're not closing. Well,
yeah.
You've got to be sensitive enough, as Tristan said, to the situation, but also understand the psychology to the process. People will talk to you more when they feel safe in the conversation. As soon as you start to try to lean towards closing too hard without a way out, you're gone, man. The conversation's over with, and they're going to either lie to you to get out of the conversation. They may say they're not interested in selling, but they really want to sell. So you lost your opportunity.
That's so key, man. So for those of you that are paying attention here, Bill said you're shifting control over to them. And we do the same thing with online leads. So Bill, it's the same script, and we're saying, look, I don't know if this is even for you, Bill. That's one of the lines that we use. Or when we get a Facebook lead ad, we're like, hey, Bill, this is Tristan. You just registered on our website through Facebook. Look, you're probably not going to make a move anytime soon, but I don't want to spam you either. What areas are you looking for so I can send you the right homes, right? I gave them total control and left it up to them to let us know where they're at.
That's the most powerful form of selling, is to actually lead the conversation, have the client feel that they're in total control. Actually, the best close is the one you never have to give, because they feel so comfortable. They go, well, gosh, I guess, you're the guy. You're the girl I need to go with. You're the woman I need to do business with. So, and Tristan, one of my biggest pet peeves is this, that when we got into real estate, I got in 35 years ago, there wasn't any real sales training. It was sit on open house, do this, do that, send a bunch of cards out, send so many. Right now, it's all about technique in conversation to lure that person, because people relate to someone in 3 different ways, right? You're communicating from the heart, talking about the head and the hand, right? The head is the intellectual side of it. The heart comes from here, and the hand is what you're going to do for them. So you're trying, again, 3 things, heart, hand, and head. So when they feel that you are someone that can be trusted, and that also one thing that we end up missing, you know how these guys and women sometimes over rapport, right? So they go you're so nervous about telling them what you're going to do for them that you think being their best friend right now is the answer, which is a completely opposite of what you should be doing. You do have to demonstrate your knowledge of the market and what you're going to do for them. Being their best friend is not going to get you listing. It's not going to get you commission. It's not going to get their house sold. They need a leader right now. They need someone that here's my 3 steps. Here's what I'm going to be doing. Like what you said, Tristan, your COVID-19 program specifically to get your home sold under these conditions. I'd like to share that with you. That's what they want to hear.
Yeah, they want solutions.
They don't want a best friend.
That's so true, Bill. So for everybody listening into, note that he's saying you need to be solution oriented, right? because everyone's looking for a solution, especially those people that need to sell, those for sale by owners that need to sell right now, and those expireds that would have liked to sell already but didn't, right? They're looking for someone that can help them in that process. And those people are out there. Bill, I know you help out there at Espresso Agent, and you hear all the most amazing stories. Anything come to mind from people that are actually calling? Because I know there are a few of my friends that are calling and having great results right now.
Yeah, I mean,
agents are calling.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I've heard people calling the agents up because they're ready, because they didn't call them up. The other thing I want to mention that we have is the for rent by owner list that you get when you get the FSBO list and the expired list. The for rent by owner list of phone numbers is going to be another market that's going to open up. And I think that you need to make those calls. And it's an easy call because you're just calling. It's the same really the approach. Wanted to call to see if this house is still rented. Obviously you have to identify yourself, and then the person goes yes or no. If no, you identify yourself and say, listen, I was calling to find out, would you be interested in putting your house up for sale? And you're just having a conversation. I think we get so worried about what to say. And actually, Tristan, I was thinking about this the other day, is that the scripts sometimes hurt us. And I'll tell you why. Because we're not having conversations, we're having words said. Yeah. And so we're not listening. So there's a term that I love to use, and you know this, and if you can see the waves behind me, it's called freestyling, right? So if you're a surfer, you freestyle. If you're a skier, you freestyle. And freestyling means that you know how to handle the situation, know where to take it. The end result's still going to be the same. But has you guys noticed that the person who's supposed to play the other role in the script doesn't usually do the same thing that they're supposed to be doing every time? And it's a little bit different. They didn't play their part, man. I don't get that, how they don't play their part right. So that's called freestyling. But we lose sensitivity because we're so worried about the words to say next that we're not listening to the triggers in the conversation to take them down the right path in the conversation, so they will feel comfortable, and then you can close them for a Zoom presentation or even just a preliminary presentation. I see people right now that are doing a two-stepper listing presentation. Well, they're doing a overview of the marketplace on Zoom, which tells a little bit about what they're going to do, not giving them the CMA or anything like that, but giving them an overview of like the program that you talked about that you have, and then asking their opinion of what they thought. The other thing in presentations is that you always have to, I call, stick the thermometer in to see if they're done. Meaning that if you're going to use 3 or 5 points, after each point, you've got to ask, does that make sense? Can you see value in that in this marketplace before you go to your next point? Because if they don't, you've got to stay there for a while because you might have missed something. So many times we do these presentations where we run through everything without checking in on those critical points of the presentation. And you're going to have to do that on Zoom.
That's a really good point, man. I love that you just said, let's just have a conversation, right? If you know that that's what you're shooting for from the very beginning, when you call people, you're going to have a better result because you're taking your salesman hat off for a second and saying, let me just have a conversation with these people and let me see how I can help. Right? If you approach it that way, you'll get a lot more people talking to you a longer time, and you'll find out what they really want to do.
Yeah, I think people too, Tristan, are wondering, how do you learn this stuff? I mean, how do you know, there's so much going on television right now. Instead of listening to the words as much, watch the technique. Watch, if you get a chance, since you're home, watch Dr. Phil. Don't worry about what the topic is. Watch how he asks questions. That he is masterful of having a conversation with someone who hates him, and then later has the dialogue and turns that person around. Yeah. You know, he's a master at that. Who else is? Oprah can make anybody cry in 2 seconds, so she's good. Yeah. And so you're just looking. Who do you know that you can just sit there? It's a psychology process. It's a way of getting deeper with people. At times we don't want to get deep because sometimes we don't want to know their stuff, but unfortunately, right now, we need to know their stuff so that we know how to best direct them. You know, some people may have to stay. Here's what my concern is for some of these people right now, the for sale by owners and the renters and everybody else, is the fact that we really don't know, you know, where the market is going, how long. They talk about a V, a U, and an L market, right? The financial markets talk about the V, U, and the L. And the U actually, obviously, you know, the U is low. We don't know how long that flattened area is. And then obviously the worst one is the L, where you're staying there in that longer, lower area for a very long time.
Yeah.
If there's a U, that means if you're able to let people know now they could save money by selling versus later where it might go down lower, really we have, we have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to call those people up and let them know how they can save some money and what they need to do. And the other thing on buyers too, you could see that the financing is changing, right? The credit scores are changing on some of these products now, where you're seeing a 700 score for just a normal loan, and they're not lending anything lower than 700, some of these mortgage companies. So that's kind of changing the game a little bit. So if that continues to go, I would want to get my house on the market right away. Now you do have a better quality buyer, but then you start to shorten the amount of buyers that are out there. You don't have that pool that you had. So the sooner, the better. And those are back to the facts that you have to know about to express it to the for sale owner and the expired, because no one's telling them this. Everybody wants to be buddies and friends and get them upset. You're coming in through a different window.
I love that, man. Somebody asked a question, and all we can give is an example, Bill, but Nikita says, what are the top 3 things we could provide for sale by owners? Anything come to mind? Because I did write a little outline right here back to her, but for you, anything come to mind?
As far as what we can offer them now to protect them from what's going on?
Yeah, anything that comes to mind for you. I'll give you an example of what I wrote back. I said, look, here's 3 things that just came to mind. One is a virtual walkthrough through 3D immersive tours, right? Number 1. Number 2, virtual open houses. And number 3, online marketing shifted to where people are searching for homes now. So mainly Facebook and Instagram.
So here's the question. When someone says, well, how are you going to protect my home from, other germs coming in or other people infected? How do I know? That's another area. Oh, and let me just bring this up. Stanley Steamer has one of the best websites on how they handle these issues in homes. And if anybody wants it, you should go to that site and go to their national page and read that. And they're also, I believe, from my talking to other people that are using them, giving discounts to real estate agents in some markets. So they do have a very detailed way of how they're going to deep clean the home and protect it from the germs that are out there coming into their home. So I think whether you pay for it or not for them, at least you can direct them that this is how we're going to do it. And some of them are putting booties in the front door. Some of them are wiping down, making sure that the owners are not home. So you're going to have to be ready for that question at times, because that will come up.
I love that. Somebody said, look, just a real video walkthrough to share with clients. There's some great examples, guys, out there of what people are actually doing. We have a friend of the link. I put up the link up there of the YouTube video I did, but we have a friend, her name's Patty. She did a walkthrough with her seller through Zoom. So it's like you and me, Jeff, you're the seller, I'm the agent. And I'm like, okay, Bill, show us your home. Tell us all about it. And then she's walking through and I'm like, oh, that's a cool feature. I love that. And she made that into an open house on Facebook. So
here's, okay, this is being, in real estate. So you almost have to coach now your people and how to do it too, probably. So if they're going to now do that, you probably have to coach them through, here's the points that we want to discuss and show, here's how it would show your house, because they are taking their little phone and walking around and doing that in the house. So, people need, see, that's something that we never had to do before. You now raise the level of your worth to them when you're able to bring something like that up, and knowing how important it is to the sale of a home right now. By having that be a specific point, you look completely different. You're not thrown into the group. You want to separate yourself as fast as you can in your dialogue and your services on the first call you make or subsequent calls. But yeah, that's a cool thing.
I love that. Guys, any questions, any comments? We can answer them right now. Nikita says, thank you for the answer. I've been mostly calling just listed, just sold neighborhoods. How do you approach it now? Just checking in? Bill, any suggestions on reaching out to just listed, just sold? I know we're talking mainly on expireds and FSBO.
Yeah, no, I think that these calls, I think you need to inquire. It's a simple call. I think once you start getting into trying to close them, but listen, you're just calling. Hi, I'm calling to find out a little bit about your neighborhood. I'm calling in to see if there's any homes that you know that may be coming on the market. I know right now we still have a low inventory. So you got to let them know why you're calling. We still have low inventory. That's really interesting. You have low inventory and sales taking place. You don't see a huge increase in these markets. So I think you're just having, again, as Tristan said, a great conversation with someone. And don't forget to add them to your database if they're nice people. You're still, in every call you make with someone, you are still leaving your brand behind. And if you leave and they feel uncomfortable, I don't care if it's a lead or not, you're still leaving an impression with someone, and you want to leave the best impression possible. And they want to see you as someone with high influence, high authority, or else you're just lumped in with everybody else. So that person can go into your database, and you can still, there's another, there's a couple guys that were doing the state of the market report. Hi, would you be interested in the state of the market report for your neighborhood? I love this. Yeah, send it to me. So now you've got that person, you know, working with you, and now you've got them on your side. So you're still building your database if worse comes to worse.
I love that. So Bill, here to wrap it up here, because I have a few questions here on your suggestions. First of all, I did put up the link there for both Espresso Agent. So guys, sign up for that. Take a look at what they offer. That's where we get all of our data from. And I also put the YouTube link there so you guys can take a look at what we're doing to host open houses for our clients through Facebook events and Premier. Bill, how are you following up with expireds and for sale by owners? Is it the same follow-up as before? Because we were aggressively following up because sometimes they wouldn't pick up, so we'd call and call and call. Has that changed in your approach? Or
yeah, a little bit. I think what we're seeing now is, let's just say, and everybody can categorize your leads differently, but let's say an A lead before this happened was a 30-day lead. You're able to work with them, follow up with them, and convert them in 30 days. A B lead was, you know, beyond that. Let's say, 60 to 90, and then a C was 90 to 120. Everything right now is cut in half. So the follow-up has changed. So an A lead right now is someone that you feel, watch this guys, that you feel can be converted in 2 weeks, buyer or seller. A B lead now is 4 weeks, and a C lead is probably 4 to 6 and some. So you're now taking an A lead that you've got to follow up with much more tighter than you did before, because we've got it. See, there's two things that we have to look at, Tristan. Here's the hard part. We've got to make money, and we don't want to push something to someone that they don't need. But in the meantime, you have a family to feed, you've got bills to pay, and you're wondering, where is this career going? So you're going to have to now go after leads that are the highest caliber you've ever had before right now, and then put them on a list. So you have your A's, and maybe they're not ready right now, but in 2 weeks, they may be more interested in talking to you. That turns into money for you and a sale for them. Start making lists of all these A's and B's, and then you can get an idea of where you're going with your business. But if you're not calling, you have no list. You don't even know what's going on with the marketplace. That also gives you some ideas of what's happening with the market. But following up, if it's an A and someone says, well, we've got to sell, like I heard a person today say that she bought a house and she hadn't sold her house yet, and she's got to sell and she's going to wait. That's a hot lead. And you're going to have to be on top of her. Now, you may need to provide information. This is where the state of the market report that you created can be helpful. You can touch base with these people on a regular basis, but you're going to have to convert that person to be doing something now.
Let's talk about really the approach, because right now the way we're using Espresso Agent is kind of like a database too. So yeah, we have our database, which is Follow Up Boss or Chime, but because we're calling consistently, we're using it to remind us to call. And more importantly, this is exactly what you said, we're prioritizing. So we know exactly who to call because we're categorizing them as A, meaning to me, they need to do something in the next 2 weeks, right? B, they're probably going to do something in the next 3 months or so. C, they said later, and D, no contact. This way I can take them off later, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't categorize them like Bill is telling you, then what's going to happen is you're just going to treat everyone in your database here for expireds and for sale by owners the same.
Same way.
And that's how you fail at this game. right? Especially right now.
Yeah, no, totally agree. That's a that could be the turning point for a lot of people right now if they do that.
Yeah. So guys, let me repeat this because this isn't something that's new. It's something that Bill talks about all the time, and that's categorizing. Make sure that you're categorizing, and if you don't, just simplify it. A, B, C, D. A, they want to do something you think in the next 2 weeks. B, they want to do something in the next 3 months. C, 6 months or later, because they said, oh, you know what, maybe later. And D, you can't get a hold of them or they tell you to go to hell, right? Which I hope they're not telling you to go to hell, because your approach should be super nice right now.
Yeah, right. No, and you know what, and Tristan, espresso, to me, is the best return on anything you can do right now in real estate to get you up and running faster than later. So
Yep.
if you're afraid of making calls, if you're resistant because you're nervous, that's okay. This is the time to get on that phone and grow past that wall that we go through and turn that into money. I mean, this is the most inexpensive investment to get such a high return, but it's based on your technique. I'm seeing a lot of people putting stuff about marketing and drones and all that kind of stuff. But let me tell you something, you're not going to get a drone doing anything unless you get a listing. So so you could buy all the drone stuff and have all the Manaport pictures, but unless you're good at communicating, and that's really what we're talking about here, the art of communication, where someone feels comfortable talking to you and then sees you as someone that's a pro, someone that has the direction and the guidance and the plan to help them. I'm telling you, once you get that down pat and you start to practice that on a regular basis, which you got to do because you just don't, it doesn't happen overnight, you're going to be able to get through this market. And you're going to be able to be much more successful because I think it's a level playing field. I think some of the top producers who are so-called top producers are going to have difficulty. And so this could be the rise of some new group of agents that have adopted to this change and become the new top producers. Really believe that.
That is so key that you said that. Guys, please listen to what Bill said. This is a shifting market, right? But more importantly, everything changed. Our whole business changed, and those that are adapting quickly will succeed. Here's one thing that both Bill and I agree on. Bill and I agree on everything, actually. Yeah. Cool. But this I think stands above everything else. The world that we live in changed, so your message has to change. If you think about the number one concern that everybody has, including myself and Bill, if we were going to put our homes on the market, the number one thing I'd want to make sure that was being done is not pictures, drone, 3D tours. I want to make sure my house is going to be safe. I don't want to come back into it and die, right? That's it. Yeah. If you put that in the forefront and say, this is how we're taking care of you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. This is how we're taking care of the buyers coming in. We've got booties. We've got whatever's necessary for those of them coming in. And here's the outline. Here it is, checklist, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everything that we're doing to make you safer. And by the way, we're still selling homes. Here's how, right? You put that at the forefront, it already alleviates the biggest concern that they have. Right.
I think that's so awesome. You just gave me the three things. So if you're doing a listing presentation, cover these three areas. I'm here to, Mr. Seller, we're here to do three things: protect your equity, protect your health, and protect the contract that we put on the house to make sure it goes to closing and that you get the net proceeds that you want out of your property. So really it's three things: equity, health, and the contract.
Dude, yes.
That's it. Dot the I and cross the T's. If they feel more comfortable about that, they're going to go with you. And so your presentation needs to be around those three items. And if you tell them that, no one's saying that. No one's telling them specifically, here's the things I'm going to. They love the word protect. Right now, they want to be protected. So how are you going to protect them from losing money if the market goes down? In some markets it will, some markets it won't. How are you going to protect the health of the family and the home? And then how are you going to protect the contract from falling through and making sure that this thing goes to closing, goes to settlement, goes to escrow?
That's so key here, guys. So for those of you wondering, well, how much is it going to cost for me to do a 3D tour and to do an aerial and all this other stuff? Don't even worry about that. The most important thing you need to worry about right now, first, is getting business, right? And so that you are going to require to get phone numbers, right? And the best thing to do is get Espresso. That's number one. Then after that, outline it. Look, equity, health, and contract. You're protecting them, and here's how. All those three things are actually protecting them, right? You're protecting their investment by getting them the most for their money. Here's how, through our marketing. You're protecting them through for their health through this whole COVID-19. Here's the outline, check mark. And then you're protecting them through the contract because you have experience, right? And if you're newer, well, you do have your brokerage that is backing you up. So you do have that. Bill, I love how you outline that, dude. Equity, health, and contract, that covers everything.
Watch, I got Mr. Seller, we have what we call the EHC program specifically.
I love how you and I are just masterminding along this super quick. This is
this is me, man. That's the way I think. So excuse me, guys, but you know what? Because people remember those. Remember three things: EHC. Look at there's so much out there in initials. But the EHC program, they're going to go, what is that? Well, you know, that's what I want to share with you Thursday at 4 o'clock. Do you see anything that will stop us from meeting? Because the EHC programs covers 3 specific areas that I think is so important to the sale of your home.
Dude.
Drop the mic time.
EHC. That's my new program, Bill. The EHC program. Forget the other name. It sucked. This is
courtesy of Espresso Agent. Thank you very much.
That's right. The EHC program by Espresso Agent. Dude, that was beautiful.
Yeah, we got it here. Guys, and please, I know there's so many programs you can be on right now. You got webinars on everything. You know, I've been in sales for 40 years. The owners of Espresso is a friend of mine. I've seen the market change, and I know what Espresso Agent is doing to ensure that they give you the best service out there. But please, it's all about you. The mistake that you could make is selling stuff. What you have to sell right now is you. You're the product, not the multiple drones and all the stuff that we're just talking about. What happens is because they didn't teach us selling, we started selling things that we can do for them. And that's not what the consumer wants. They need, for lack of a better word, Superman or Superwoman right now to protect them, as we just talked about. And the only way you're gonna let them know that is not by showing them things, is by you showing them you. You're the product. How do you demonstrate you? By your conversations.
Dude, I love that. Everybody's loving the EHC program. Somebody just chimed in and said, yeah, they love that acronym.
I'm using it.
So,
that's great.
So make sure, Bill, to let everybody at Espresso know that we just created this.
We created a new program.
They can trademark that and use it for the next few months because EHC, guys, for those of you who missed it, Bill just came up with it. It was equity, health, and contract. And can you outline those so that people can have it fresh in their mind so they know how to use it? So can you just repeat what you meant by equity, health, and contract?
Yeah, so what we're saying is in the conversation, I'd like to share with you, Mr. Seller, my EHC program. The E stands for equity. We're here to protect your equity and to make sure that your hard-earned equity is not lost, that we time it right. 2 is health. We got to make sure that the buyers that are coming in are not going to infect your home, and that we also are not going to have anything else happen health-wise in your home. The condition of the property so it's ready to be shown and people coming in. And the last one is contract. We want to make sure that we dot the I's and cross the T's so that you're in a contract knowing it's going to escrow and not falling out. So it's right now we have specific items for that, and we look forward to sharing the EHC program with you next Thursday at 4 o'clock.
I love it. That's good. Nikita said, what are you telling people in regards to protecting them about the market going down? Look, Nikita, we can't guarantee that going up or down, but we can, because we have our ear to the ground as to what's happening now. I can tell my sellers saying, hey, look, if the home's priced right, we're getting multiple offers, and that's all I can speak to now. You leave everything else up to me. Let's price it right, and I can make sure I do this EHC thing correctly.
Yeah, remember this, Tristan, you probably remember. The best price reduction you can put on the house is the first price you set on the property when you list it. Remember that? the old
Dude,
days.
I do remember that.
So all I'm saying to you is that you need to know MLS like you've never known MLS before. So it's amazing to me how many agents have never pulled the reports out of MLS and never studied MLS. That needs to be your best friend, because you've got to hedge the market. You can't be behind a declining curve if there is one. You've got to be in front of it. And that may mean a 3% or a 5% reduction right off of CMA that you have right now. So you got to really look at the numbers that are coming out of MLS and study the reports.
That's the key. Become a pro, right? We're always saying we're pros. Well, now is your time to show it.
That's right.
Guys, thank you for being on. Remember to visit espressoagent.com. They've got a special deal of your lab coat. So just mention that you're lab coat agents. Bill, anything else you want to add? I know we're doing another one in a week. So that's going to be
weeks. Yeah, we're going to do another one. And guys, I just from our side of it, knowing that for some of you, this is a new thing, having to make these type of calls, but just do it. Don't be so concerned about how people feel. And you're searching for that person that needs help right now. And you need help because you need income, you need deals, and you need, to pay your bills. So you're going to have to get uncomfortable. And the more you get uncomfortable making the calls, and you're going to make mistakes, people will hang up on you. You'll start to learn how to do this and get really, really good. So we're here to help you.
That's right. Guys, check it out. espressoagent.com/lab coat agents. Bill, thanks for being on, dude. I always have so much fun with you, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. I got to go back. I'm going to lay on the palm trees. I'll be right back.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.